Man, if you follow the Philadelphia Eagles closely, you already know the mood in the city has been bad. The collapse against Dallas didn't just sting, it left everybody frustrated. Players, fans, coaches, everybody. And when emotions get that high, somebody always ends up in the crosshairs. And this week, that somebody has been the offensive coordinator. The criticism has been everywhere, louder than ever. And even though the loss wasn't entirely on him, it was impossible to ignore how much heat he was taking. But then Jordan Mailata stepped up and did something you don't always see in moments like this. He actually went out of his way to defend his coach, saying the blame wasn't just on the staff and that the players themselves had a hand in the meltdown with the penalties, the missed assignments, and all the self-inflicted wounds that completely derailed the game plan. And honestly, he's not wrong. You can draw up the perfect play, but if the offense keeps shooting itself in the foot, it doesn't matter how creative the calls are. Still, there's no denying that something feels off with this offense. This group is loaded with talent, one of the most complete units in the league, and yet this season has looked nothing like the explosive attacks Philadelphia has rolled out in recent years. When you look back at the entire Nick Sirianni era, this is the year where the offense has drifted furthest from what it should be. And the one major change is the guy calling the plays. That's why fans are growing impatient. The talent is there, the opportunities are there, but the rhythm just vanishes for long stretches and the miscommunication pops up in the worst moments. You don't need to be a football guru to see it. Something isn't clicking the way it should, and when that keeps happening week after week, people start asking tough questions. But that's where the conversation circles back to Nick Sirianni. Because even though he's been one of the most successful coaches in team history in terms of wins, even though he's already coached in 2 Super Bowls, he's still the one who decided who would call the plays. And right now, he's sticking to that decision hard. After the Cowboys' loss, he made it pretty clear he wasn't even considering taking that responsibility away from his coordinator. And look, it's not shocking. Coaches are loyal, especially to the guys they've trusted for years. But that loyalty is part of the problem too. When something isn't working and you refuse to adjust, the blame doesn't just fall on your staff, it falls on you. That's not to say Sirianni is suddenly a bad coach. Far from it. The guy knows how to build a culture, how to rally a locker room, how to get his players ready mentally. But being a strong leader doesn't automatically make you a top-tier offensive mind. And you can see his fingerprints all over this passing game, because when the right coordinators ran it, everything looked smooth. With someone like Shane Steichen or Kellen Moore, the offense had flow, timing, and identity. This year, the confidence just isn't there. And it's not only the passing game. The run game has been another headache altogether. The offensive line has dealt with injuries, sure, but even when healthy, the ground attack hasn't been what Philadelphia expect from that unit. Jeff Stoutland is one of the most respected line coaches in the sport, but even he hasn't been exempt from the frustration. The run concepts feel stale, the blocking hasn't been as dominant, and the discipline has dipped at the worst moments. And Saquon Barkley, as dangerous as he is with the ball, hasn't been able to find much space. It's not always on him. Most of the time, there's simply nowhere to go, but the Cowboys game definitely wasn't his best outing. So when people point fingers, the truth is the blame is spread across the whole building. Coaches, players, veterans, young guys, everyone has a part in what's happening. And the tough thing is knowing the potential is still there. You can see flashes of what this offense could be. There are drives where everything finally looks right again, and you're reminded of how good this team can be when it's all aligned. They just haven't been able to keep that going from one week to the next. But now, there's no time to sulk, because Friday brings a massive test against Chicago, and the stakes are sky high. The Eagles and Bears are sitting right behind San Francisco in the conference standings, and with the season entering its final stretch, one loss could completely shuffle the seeding. So the pressure is on, the lights are bright, and the game feels almost like a playoff preview. And on top of all that, the Eagles are rolling out the black jerseys with the black helmets, which just feels right for a big moment like this. Those uniforms always bring a different sort of energy. They've been kind of forgotten since the Kelly Greens came back, but deep down, every fan knows there's something special about those all-black nights, especially when the opponent is tough and the stakes are enormous. And make no mistake, Chicago is a tough matchup right now. They're young, fast, confident, and on a winning streak. Their offense has been one of the most dangerous in the league. Caleb Williams has really stepped into his role this season, using his legs, keeping plays alive, and running an attack that sits near the top of the league in most major categories. When they get rolling on the ground, they're almost impossible to slow down. And the biggest thing is that they protect the ball. They win turnover battles like it's second nature, and that alone has carried them through several tight games. They're not the most experienced team, but they know how to finish games and ride momentum better than most. Still, as good as they've been, the Bears have some problems on defense, especially with injuries. They've been missing key linebackers, guys who normally stabilize the middle of the field. Their top tacklers have been in and out of the lineup, and even though there's a real chance some of them return this week, you can tell Chicago hasn't been at full strength in a while. And that's where things get complicated, because if even one or two of those players make it back in time for Friday, that instantly gives their defense a lift. But the biggest potential boost for them is in the secondary. Their top corner and their top slot defender have both been out, and both of them are legitimate game changers. And for the first time in a long time, they're trending toward returning. If those guys suit up on Friday, the challenge for Philadelphia's offense becomes even tougher, especially considering how inconsistent things have been through the air. The Eagles, though, finally got some good news of their own after a weekend filled with injuries. Losing bodies in the secondary hurt them badly against Dallas, and seeing multiple safeties go down was alarming. But hearing that Reed Blankenship is expected to play was huge. He's one of the most underrated pieces on the entire defense. Not only because he makes plays, but because he's the voice on the back end, the one who controls the communication and keeps the group organized. When he left the game against the Cowboys, you could immediately see the difference. Having him back against a dangerous Bears offense is massive. And now the spotlight shifts to Sidney Brown, who's about to be thrown into a much bigger role. He's shown flashes in the past, and he plays with a ton of fire, but he also has moments where he gets a little too aggressive and loses discipline. He's going to need to settle in quickly, because he's not stepping in for just a quarter or two. He's stepping in for the rest of the season. And this coaching staff clearly believes he can handle it. And while the focus has been on the secondary and how the Eagles plan to hold things together, the situation on offense suddenly got a whole lot more complicated. Just when it looked like Philadelphia might finally get through a week without a major setback, the injury report dropped and gave the fan base another reason to panic. Brandon Graham popping up with a groin issue is already tough enough because his leadership and energy mean way more to this defense than any stat sheet ever shows. But the real shock was seeing Devonta Smith listed as out of practice with both a shoulder and chest problem. That sent a ripple of concern through the entire fan base, because if there is one player this offense cannot afford to lose right now, it is him. Smith has been the steadying force, the guy who keeps the chains moving when everything else breaks down. Even in games where the offense comes out flat or stalls for long stretches, he's been the one constant weapon who finds a way to produce. His route running has been as sharp as ever. His timing with the quarterback has been on point, and he's stepped up in virtually every big moment the team has needed him this year. So the idea that he might not be available for a huge game like this is the kind of news that stops everybody in their tracks. Of course, it was only a walkthrough, and sometimes these early reports can make injuries seem worse than they are. But anytime a star wide receiver is dealing with multiple upper body issues, you can't help but feel uneasy about what that means for a short week. And with the offense still trying to rebuild its identity and get some rhythm back, missing a player like Smith would create a massive hole. That's especially true this week because Chicago's secondary might be getting healthier at exactly the wrong time for Philadelphia. With their top corner and slot defender potentially returning, the challenge for this receiving core becomes far more intimidating. Those two have a reputation for suffocating passing games completely. When they are healthy, quarterbacks tend to avoid throwing their direction altogether. And if the Bears have both of them available while the Eagles are missing their most reliable wideout, suddenly this matchup swings in a very different direction. Still, this team has dealt with adversity all season, and the hope is that someone steps up if Smith isn't ready. The offense has always had the talent to survive injuries. The issue has been execution and consistency. And right now, more than anything, they need a spark. They need someone to change the tempo, bring energy, and force the Bears to adjust. Whether that comes from the remaining receivers, the running game finally breaking free, or the quarterback making plays off script, something has to light the fuse. Meanwhile, on defense, the conversation shifts to how they're going to navigate the rest of the season with so many moving pieces. Losing Andrew McCuba for what could be the remainder of the year is a massive blow. Not only because he brought versatility and toughness to the secondary, but because his presence allowed Vic Fangio to mix his looks more freely. Now, with Brown stepping into that role and Blankenship trying to play through his own issues, the back end has a lot on its plate. Fangio's system relies heavily on smart, disciplined play from the safeties, and this is the moment where that responsibility becomes real for the younger guys. Fangio himself sounded optimistic, which is always a good sign, but words can only go so far. The truth is the Eagles are about to face an offense that loves to stress defenses horizontally and vertically. Chicago spreads you out, forces your linebackers into space, and attacks your weak links until you prove you can stop it. And right now, their weak links are obvious. That doesn't mean the Eagles can't overcome it, but it does mean they need to be sharper than they've been in the past few weeks. Missed tackles, blown coverages, and slow reads simply won't cut it. What makes this matchup even more intense is the playoff picture. Both teams are fighting not just for positioning, but for legitimacy. The Bears want to show the world they're ahead of schedule, that their young core is ready to compete with the best in the conference. The Eagles, on the other hand, are trying to reestablish themselves as a true contender after weeks of inconsistency and growing doubts. One game isn't going to define an entire season, but this one is going to push one team forward and send the other scrambling to recover. What can't happen is another game filled with avoidable mistakes. You cannot hand away touchdowns, you cannot commit penalty after penalty, and you cannot stall in the red zone when the opportunities are there. Chicago thrives on taking advantage of sloppy teams. That's how they built their winning streak, and that's how they've managed to stay competitive even when key players were injured. If the Eagles want to win this game, they have to take control early and keep it. They cannot let the Bears hang around, because once Chicago senses momentum, they flip a switch and become a completely different team. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. ESPN is stirring the pot once again, and the buzz around the league is getting louder by the hour. According to whispers circulating through team facilities and front offices, the Eagles have reportedly secured a defensive piece in a trade that insiders are calling nothing short of transformative for their rotation. While no official details have surfaced, the murmurs suggest that the move has already sent shockwaves through personnel groups who had no idea Philadelphia was even shopping in this particular market. What makes the situation even more intriguing is the tight lid the organization has kept on the identity of the incoming defender. Sources close to the situation have hinted at a player known for versatility and raw physical presence. Someone capable of slipping seamlessly into multiple fronts without sacrificing explosiveness. The rumor mill insists this is not a depth signing or a developmental flyer, but a calculated acquisition aimed at elevating the entire defensive interior. The message is clear. The Eagles are not waiting around for incremental progress. They want immediate impact. People familiar with the negotiations say the front office moved with unusual urgency, catching rival teams off guard. Some executives, speaking anonymously, even suggested the Eagles jumped the line, managing to finalize terms before other contenders realized the player was available. That sudden burst of aggression has only fueled speculation that Philadelphia sees this defender as the missing piece in a rotation that has shown flashes of dominance, but lacked a consistent anchor. As for the locker room, early reactions appear cautiously optimistic. Veterans reportedly see the move as a sign of commitment from the front office, a declaration that they are all in on tightening the defensive core. Younger players, meanwhile, are said to be buzzing about the chance to learn alongside someone with established pedigree. Whether the hype can translate into on-field chemistry remains to be seen, but the anticipation within team walls is unmistakable. For now, all anyone can do is wait for further confirmation. If the early reports from ESPN hold true, the Eagles may have just reshaped their defensive identity with a single, bold stroke, and the rest of the league is already paying attention. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.